Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So what I was trying to say that I have tried to make this figure a little more explainable from our external yesterday explanation. In this case, you will see we have a underground opening having certain dimensions. Some length is there, maybe in some single digits, 5 to 6 meter width, 3 to 4 or 5 meters height, and then we are making a borehole. Maybe of the length 5 to 15 meter. The diameter of this borehole in the range of 100 meter to 150 meter, 100 or maybe 200 meter depends upon the type of rods we are inserting or type of number of measurement points we are incorporating into the multi-point borehole extensometer. Okay, so yesterday we had seen an example for a 3-point measurement. So we have inserted 3 rods. The diameter of each rod may be around 10 mm, 1 centimeter diameter of one of the rods which we are inserting over here, and you can see we are applying the load from here. From there, here we have a flat jack arrangements we have seen, and from here we are pushing it apart, right? We are applying a force from here which will try to push the roof in upward direction. It will also push the roof floor in downward directions. So we are applying a two opposite forces, right? So in this process, what will happen? The rock mass, which is lying in between this zone. I'm just making a transparent. If I can put a size of the rock mass, which is getting stressed because of the stress which we are applying over here. So you can see the volume which is being involved in this testing procedure. If the length is almost 10 to 15 meters length, and the diameter may be equivalent to the diameter of the flat jack area. The flat jack or the hydraulic jack, the area may be 1 meter square area we are applying the load. So the volume of the material which is involved in this test will be numerous compared to what we are testing in a lab. Now, yesterday I have shown you one of the samples also. The sample size for this lab test material will be somewhere like this. The diameter may be of with 54 mm diameter, and the length will be around 108 to 127 mm length, means 12 centimeter long, or maybe half 5 centimeter diameter. This is the size of the sample we are testing in the lab. And you see the type of sample, the size of the sample we are testing in case of on-site testing. So that is the huge difference is there. So when we are going to have a large size sample, definitely it will incorporate number of joints within that, and we are trying to get the behavior of all of them. And during this process, not only we are testing the joints, but also the other factors, maybe the presence of the material which is filled in between the joint surfaces. Now we will see later on what are the filled materials are there within that. And also we are doing everything on site where we are planning to have our original structure to be created. So we are not at all affecting the natural integrity of the material at all. Okay, so during this process, whatever the material characteristic we are going to trying to summarize in terms of some numbers, maybe some numerical numbers we are developing in terms of a deformation modulus. Now, how your load and deformations are being related during this process for a rock mass. So in this process, what you will find, a very common sense questions will be there. What will be the difference from the when the joint will be more and in one case if joint will be less. So definitely the answer, your modulus value is going to be different. No? If your joint will be more, your modulus value will be less. If your joint modulus, if your joint will be more less, your modulus value will be high. So the joint effect, the effect of the joints is going to affect a lot. Not only that, what you will see also, in this case, we are trying to find out this material in a very, not in a confined mode. No material is there from the surrounding also. Here we are trying to find the material, the property where all the surrounding materials are there. No? So they are getting some sort of a natural confinement in on-site testing. No? So this advantage we will get when we are going to test it. So this is what I had tried to explain you yesterday, and we will see that the volume. This is what the difference is. This is what the difference is. The volume you are testing in this case is too much. And if you'll compare, now you can appreciate the difference we have cited as far as the laboratory test and the in situ test is concerned. Cost, time of test, as well as the size of the instrument. So if on all aspects you'll appreciate that in a single test also it will take maybe months to prepare the site. Okay, so this way it is making a difference. So this is creating a real challenge for us to do for a in situ test. And that's why when the project is very strategic in nature, definitely we have to have this test, so to find out the actual behavior of the rock mass. Okay, so now we will see one of the photographs. That's why I have drawn a figure ahead before I will come to the actual photographs with a lot of instruments and the flat jack and this setup, so that you can get an idea that how actually it will look like. No? How actually in books, if you follow books, you'll find this type of figures directly. And you can see we have different MPBX are there, which is fixed at various locations. Now this point, this cross is showing you the point at which we are fixing one of the rods, or we are anchoring the rod at the various locations in the borehole. No? So one of the, maybe at a certain depth, maybe some D1 depth into the borehole, then maybe do D2, D3, D4, D5. So in this case, you will see it is this MPBX is being anchored at 5 different locations. So it will be known as the 5-point borehole extensometers. No? If it will be anchored at only 2 points, so it will be a 2-point borehole extensometer, like that. No? So we can have this. Okay, so while doing this test, we are applying the load in a various ways, because our purpose is that to find the site, find a site which is suitable for that type of structure, and we want to ascertain this by applying different types of load. And because the over period of time, different types of stresses may act on the structure. Okay, so we are trying to test this rock in a various angles also, various angles which may be a possible loading conditions in that particular location. So one of the time I was telling that I was trying to test the locations, maybe 100 means 50% to 100% more than the proposed load on that area. So that can be, we have to apply. Okay, now so we are so the area. Okay, so it is talking about the area. Here you can see we are talking about the maximum test load we are applying on the test site. It can be vary from 20% more than the proposed load to 50% more than the proposed load at that site. Okay, so that is the one aspect. So we are trying to test the thing little more than what is going to get on the structure. First thing. Second thing is that we are going to load it. The complete load, if it is 1.5 times the proposed load, we are going to have an incremental load. We are going to load it in 5 different loading and unloading cycles. So that we are going to do that. Second thing is that we are applying a load for some time time period, maybe for 2 days, for a constant pressure. Whatever the load will be there, we'll leave it for 48 hours or 2 days, and see what is the deformation is taking place. So that is a very important property, no? Because once you will construct a load, and possibly some of you might have observed that when we are constructing a high-rise buildings or maybe small buildings also, in your houses also you will find some cracks are being observed. No? So what is happening? Because this load of the building is now fixed, and over the period of time some settlement used to take place, and that is leading to some failure. So we want to see that once the structure is being created, whether there is some sort of this behavior is there or not, settlement behavior is there or not, or maybe some sort of a deformation based on time is there or not. So that we want to see. Okay, so that's why we want to. So we will see in our next slide that we are trying to find. This is what we have seen, that we are trying to find out the different types of modulus during this cyclic loading, and we are trying to find out the creep characteristic, which is related with the time dependent deformation of the rock, no? And we will try to see whether the rock locations or the site is anisotropic or isotropic. That also will be interesting for us to know. Now you'll see one of the test site I am citing from one of the paper published in International Journal of Rock Mechanics in 2006, and you can see this load is being applied between the same set of what I have drawn it below the underground space. The roof is being created, floor is being created, and there is a hydraulic jacks to apply the load. Hydraulic jacks, and you can see there are 4 number of hydraulic jacks are there, and it is being applied, this load is being applied. So it will depends upon the capacity. Accordingly, if you can select the size of the jack which is required to apply this this load. Okay, so based on the required, you can select the load, the jack capacity, right? So here we are using the 4 different jacks. Some of the people have also used the flat jack, right? Instead of using hydraulic jacks, also apart with the hydraulic jack, they are using the flat jack, no? Because it will distribute your load uniformly on that particular area, right? And sometimes only flat jack is being used if the load requirement is less. So you can also go ahead with the flat jack to apply pressure between the 2 surfaces, right? In this case, you will find that below, in between this plate, we have a hole. You cannot see that, but there is a hole, as we have discussed in our earlier plots. And in this hole, we have installed a deformation gauge, MPBX, no? Multi-point borehole extensometers are being installed between these 2. Okay, and we are trying to apply this load from here. So load is being applied, and correspondingly, we are measuring the deformation. And what are the devices is there to measure this deformation? We are using in this figure, you will see that we have a dial gauge. No? Dial gauge is something like this. What will be like a dial in which some deformation. So this telescopic arm will be there, which will get deformed, and this hand of this gaze is going to move, right? So we can measure the deformation of these plates, and you know the least count of this dial gauge, it is 10 to the power minus 6 meter. No? So this is the least count is very high for this type of for this dial gauge, and we can measure a very minute deformation which is occurring because of this pressure, right? So now we are so this is the my question over here is purpose of keeping both borehole concentric. So one important aspect is that while drilling these 2 holes, it should be concentric, right? So you have to think of why we want this hole to be concentric. Otherwise, what will happen? What will be the how it is going to affect the results if it is not concentric, right? So we are putting these holes to be concentric for the upper hole and the lower hole, and then we are applying the, okay. Second thing is that we are keeping these surfaces very flat. Even we have used some natural material, artificial material, maybe cement concrete, to get a flat surface at both the ends. And then we are placing this iron plates, circular in shape, and circular, not circular, it is circular, but there will be a small hole in between so that we can have a drill hole into the roof as well as the floor. Okay, so this will be the complete figure, the actual figure where how it will look like once we are going for installation in a real condition. Okay. Now you see we can have the different scales. So just now I am talking about the dial gauge. It can measure up to a value of 0.001 mm. Right? We can also use some LVDT nowadays, having the list count maybe in the range of 10 to the power minus 7 meter, or we can measure a displacement of 0.0001 mm. Right? So we have a different level of instrumentation. If the rock is very, very strong, having very stiffness is very high, in that case definitely we have to have more precise instrument, or having the very less, the list count should be very high. Then only we will able to measure the deformation, otherwise not. No? Similarly, say for example, if you are using a common linear scale, so list count is simple 1 mm we can measure, and if you have a deformation in this range, so we cannot measure with this linear scale. The selection of this instrument is very important while installation of these things. No? So that's why not only for this deformation measurement, but also for the stress which we are applying, the selection of the right capacity of your hydraulic jack or right capacity of your flat jack, so that we can apply the required load which is being supposed to act on that particular site because of our proposed structure. Okay. Now you can see the another photographs of showing the different borehole, where you will see in this figure we are installing we are anchoring the rods of this multi-point borehole extensometer at 5 different locations, 4 here and 1 is here, and this point is showing you at the point of your opening, right? Opening underground opening, or we have this location, and from there we have these 5 anchorages are there. No? Anchors are there. In this anchor, you will find that 4 of them are very close to each other, right? And 1 of them is far away from each other. So there is a purpose. What is the purpose of keeping one of the anchors far away from the load of application? Yesterday also I might have told you the purpose of keeping one of the anchor is very far off from the loading point is that we are assuming that once we are applying a load, this load will not transmit up to this limit. No? And maybe this is far off. That's why we are keeping this distance to be far off from the point of your applications, right? Okay, by assuming that the stress will not reach up to this point and no deformation will occur to this point. So this is what this point will act as a reference point. No? Because we have already created this opening, so some deformation has occurred. No? And below this point, we are assuming that once we are applying some stress, actually this is not going to be affected by the load which we are applying from this hydraulic jack or the flat jack. So that's why this is one of the requirements of this test, that one of the anchors should be very far off from the point of loading, right? And then rest will be close to each other. So here you will see 3 times the flat jack diameter. So here, if you are using a flat jack of 1 meter square area of the flat jack, so it will be of 3 times the diameter, means 3 meter away from this we are installing. No? So so like that. So based on, so one will be far off and others will be close, so that we can actually measure the deformation. No? Otherwise, the load will not propagate up to the far off points. No? So that's all. Okay. Now, in this second figure, you will see that there are some sort of joints may be present. So it is very, very important for us to know that where are the joints within the hole. So sometimes we have to find out what are the joints present into the borehole. Otherwise, the placement of your anchorage or the point of anchorage will give you a very false reading. Na? So how we can find that? Either you can determine by a very crude method of collecting the what is called your cores, and then from there you can identify where the cracks are present. Or nowadays, where we have a very flexibility of um, uh, flexible with purchasing the gadgets like borehole cameras, so we can procure a borehole camera and we can take a picture of entire borehole, and through that we can find out where are the cracks are there, na? And based on the location of this crack we can place our anchors. Okay, so if you will place anchor on just like say for example this, what will happen? This point is going to be affected by the joint which is just nearby it, na? Because this is anchored over here, and if I'm applying pushing it, so this point is getting affected by the deformation of this joint, right? Joint is something where you can see the term is written open joint, right? Open joint means it is not the two surfaces are created within the rock mass without any it is open, means there is no filling at all, no? So once we will press it, this gap is getting to be closer, no? Once we will open joint is there and we are trying to apply a force, so the deformation will be because of the closing of the joint. So but this will not give you a idea about the deformation of the rock mass, right? So this will give you a very it will give you a wrong impression or the wrong data for this type of test. So we have to avoid it, na? So in that situation, what we to get a clear picture of this joint behavior, we have to have two joints together, na? So one is if I want to get a clear picture of this joint deformation, how much it is deforming, so we have to have two such type of anchorage across these joints, na? So one will give you about the deformation of the intact portion, another will give you the deformation of the joint only. So the subtraction of these two is going to give you how much is the deformation is happening because of the joint. Okay, so this we have to look for. Otherwise, this will give you a very bad. If you have only one anchorage over here, nothing is here, so you cannot say that the deformation between this point and this point is because of the is because of is being contributed, is not being contributed by the joints, na? So to know the effects of the rock mass where this joint is very, very small in nature and very frequent in nature, not very, very open in nature, in that case we have to have a two anchorage side by side. Similarly, you can have the other examples where we can have the location. So that's why this borehole cameras are being used to fix the location of the anchorage before the test. Okay. So this is what in this red text it is written, that these are the precautions we have to take when we are doing this MPBX installations, and that's why you will see that the type of load you have, no? The type of the time which is being spent on for the preparation of the site itself, no? So it is taking a huge time. Okay, now you see in this scale here it is at the point of your borehole, and this scale is showing it is 6D. So at the 6 times the diameter of your area of load applications, we will plot more or less this point where we are assuming that the effect of this load will be it will not reach, right? So this is our concept for here. Now here I will try to show you the photographs I have taken from one of the company website. It is written over here. I will also encourage you to visit such sites to get some photographs. I have also some photographs, possibly I will show you later on. And you'll see the rods which is being installed with this extensometers, and it is a 3 rods are there, talking about the 3-point borehole extensometers, and then it is being installed within the boreholes, right? And then we have the, you can see this type of material which is being filled, so that we are filling the entire space with the concrete and cement mixture, so that everything is getting fixed within the rock. No? Everything is getting fixed within the borehole. No? So nothing is going to happen. And what is happening? This rod is being sent within a plastic cover, so that only the end of the rod is being fixed with the cement, not the entire length. No? So entire length we are protecting from this concreting by placing by a plastic hard plastic tube will be covered all along its length except the end. So when we are placing the cement into that, it is going to fix this end rather than fixing the entire length. No? So we are anchoring. Anchoring means we are connecting this. We are fixing this rod at the end itself. No? So all the rods, maybe this is the one of them, which is anchored at this end. Then this will be anchored at some other location, and some other loads will be installed at the other different locations. So all the rods will be anchored at 3 different locations, or the 4 different locations. No? So like, say for example, here you have one rod is here, so it will be anchored only in this region. No? Anchor is, it will be there. Will be corrugated wire having some what is called uneven surfaces will be created, and it can give you a mechanical locking with the concrete. So that is being anchored only at the end only. Rest will be covered with the tube, plastic tubes, right? And these points will be only covered. So once you are getting a extension, or the pressure you are applying, so the length between these 2 points, the point at which we are applying the load and the point of the anchorage, this length is getting decreased, right? So that is the deformation which we are, the load, corresponding load, and the corresponding deformation delta we can measure from this test. So this we can measure for all the depth. If it is a 1 meter length, so we will measure from 0 to 1 meter. If it is 2 meter length depth, so we can measure from 0 to 2 meter, like that. So at various depth intervals within the borehole, we can measure the deformation of these rods, right? And based on these measurements, we can find out our deformation modulus. Now I will come to that later on. Now you see, as I told you, we can have this loading cycle, different loading cycles, and you can see we have to do this complete loading cycle in maybe a 5 different cycles we have to follow, right? So you'll see this, if it is going in this way, first curve, it is going up and up to 1.4 megapascal. The unit is in megapascal, and the x-axis is talking about the deformation, right, in mm term. No? So deformation is in mm, and the load we are applying in terms of megapascal. So load is being applied, or the stress or the pressure is being applied through the hydraulic jack, and it is reached to 1 cycle. So that is 1.4. Then we are releasing the load. So if it is an elastic material, then this will not be the path. The path will be same. No? So loading and unloading cycle will remain the same. The path will be same, because this material is rock mass having a lot of joint. So we will get some unloading will took place. So we will get some sort of a permanent deformation will be added to the system. Okay. Similarly, again we are going for the twice of this cycle. No? So 1.4. So we are loading up to 2.8. No? So this is being added up to 2.8 megapascal, and then comes down with the same rate. Here rate of loading is also important. So we are increasing this load rate in a very, it is in a static. No? So slowly and slowly we are increasing this load, and we are going up to the the prescribed level of loading in the first cycle. Similarly, we are maintaining the same rate of loading for the second cycle. You should remember that we are doing it for all the static tests are there. Load is not varying, is not time dependent. So with each time, we are applying a constant load, which will achieve the maximum value after some time. No? So it is 2.8 per second. So as I was telling that, in each cycle, when we reach this value, maximum value, then we are keeping this load to be constant for 2 days. 2 days time, we are keeping this load, and then we are going for the unloading cycle. Okay. And when we reach the bottom, when the load becomes zero, we are again keeping this load to be zero load for 1 day time, and we will see how the changes are happening during this process. So again, we will go for the second, third cycle and goes down. Fourth cycle goes down. Fifth cycle goes down. So finally, we are achieving 6.9 megapascal. And this example is showing you one of the example, one of the test site example referred by our International Society of Rock Mechanics in their standard. So I'm citing from there. So we are getting a permanent deformation of some amount after the 5 different cycles. And you can see the slope of each cycles are different. Now, slope of each cycles are getting different at different. Okay. So, so this will look for now. So here I have some question. What is the purpose of incremental loading? Okay. What is the purpose of the cyclic loading? Why we are going for generally for in a laboratory test, we are not going for this type of test. Okay. We are not going for this type of test. We are just interested to find out what is the ultimate strength of the material. But in this rock mass on-site test or in situ strength test, we are interested for incremental load. What is the purpose of incremental load? Then we are trying to find out the cyclic loading. Why we are going for a cyclic loading, right? Why more loads are applied to the maximum load? So I have tried to answer all of the questions, and you should also just have a thought of why. Can you have other thoughts also, that what are the other purposes which is compelling us to have such type of test when we are going for the in situ strength test. Okay. If, this is the time which we have tried to plot. As I told you, when I'm reaching a maximum value, we are keeping the test for 48 hours. And when we are going for a zero load, we are keeping it for 24 hours, right? So this is what, when the load is being constant, this type of phenomena, we are calling it a creep behavior. No? I told you earlier. No? So we are trying to see whether there is some creep behavior or not, whether the deformation of the material is there when the load is constant. So you see, we have started this experiment on day 1, and then I achieving the maximum value, and you can see here the plot is between the strain or the deformation versus time. So here we are plotting deformation versus time. Okay. So it is very important for you to know that what is this creep for other things which we can define. I can draw a small photograph here. The creep which we can define with the x-axis and y-axis, where x-axis is talking about the time. Okay, x-axis is talking about the time. Say for example, if I can draw a photograph and for a cylindrical sample, okay, on a cylindrical sample, this is fixed from the bottom, rigid support is there from the bottom, okay, and then we are applying a load, constant load that will be fixed. A constant load is being applied from the okay, a load is being applied. No? So, it can be the load can be of any nature, right? It doesn't matter that it should be UCS also. Just I am citing you one of the example that this loading is creep loading, and in this creep loading, what we are doing, we are keeping this load to be constant, right? We are applying some sigma. Maybe I am applying some 10 Newton. Okay, I'm applying some 10 Newton load I am applying on this particular area of cross section. So we can find it out what is the stress we are applying. 10 divided by the area of cross section will give you the value of stress, right? So here we are trying to find out a curve when this load is constant, right? When this load is constant, which will be defined by U. So we are trying to find out what will be the value of this strain. We are trying to find out what is the value of the strain. What is the value of the strain? Strain we are representing by the epsilon, right? Or we are interested to find out the delta, means deformation. What is our we are doing over here, right? So we can measure the strain or the deformation, and in x-axis we are measuring the time. If you have this type of measurements, you will find what you will find. You will find two things. You can find two things. The nature of the curve. So generally, a very what is called a typical curve is being developed for engineering materials, which I will cite over here, and the nature of the curve will be something like that. I may not be very accurate in this plotting, but it is coming good here. Okay, so the curve will be something like this. So the curve, you can see the deformation, the strain in the body keeps on increasing. So initially it is increasing, that it becomes constant, and then it becomes increasing exponentially. So the time, with the time, the deformation of the deformation within the body is increasing with the time, right? So this is type of observation. So this is the Cribb curve. This is this we are calling it a Cribb curve, and this is very a standard curve to explain the Cribb phenomena. Okay, so you can see. Okay, so you can see this. Okay, so you'll find that it keeps on increasing. So we can define this curve into three different parts: primary creep, secondary creep, and tertiary creep. So once you are in this stage, you cannot stop the failure of the material. So at a constant load itself, the material fails. It doesn't matter that it is less than the strength of the material, but as soon as it is, even though it is less than the strength of the material, it leads to failure based on the time. So this is very, very important for us. This property is very common for any of the structures, whether it is engineering material or whether it is a rock material. It is this property exists, and we are trying to test the same thing here. We are trying to test the same thing over here by keeping this load to be constant for 48 hours when the load is maximum, and keep it like here. You can see the load is kept constant 1.4, and you will see it moves from day 1 to day 2. And in this process, you see some strain has increased. The line is little inclined, and we have measured this strain. And you see the unit is in mm, 0.25 mm. So we have to have either LVDTs or the dial gauge for the measurement of this level of deformation, right? So this is how it is happening. So now once the zero load is there, so we are getting no deformation is occurring. Then again you will see some deformation. So the deformation, you can see we are achieving, although this deformation level is very, very less, but you will see we are getting to have some permanent deformations is being added, which is not only because of the cyclic loading, but also because of your creep loading. So if you are very much interested in only in creep loading, so you just do the creep loading and subtract what is the change, or you can do manually also, or maybe you can write your code and you can find it out what will be the change in deformation because of this creep. And you can find it out the effect of deformation because of this loading cycle, or you can segregate the total deformation, this plastic displacement between the cyclic loading and because of the creep loading. You can segregate these two. Okay, so that is very, very possible. So that's why the purpose of looking into this, because like say for example tunnels or any underground mines, possibly we can plan for 50 years or maybe 100 years. Some of the mines are there, is still there, is running and having is maybe operating from last 100 years, no? And still the lives are still there with them. So we have to see how this is there. Huh? So if you are not going for this type of measurement, so possibly you have to keep your factor of safety very, very high so that we can consider. So we will discuss later on when we will talk about the design of any sort of structures. Now you see we can get some for one of the cycle I am trying to show you. So for each cycle you will get some of the modulus, right? So this is your curve, and you'll find that this curve is something like flat in nature in start, and then it is like this. No? So why this is tangent modulus is less at the start, why it is more at the start, and if you'll see it has come down. So again further it is going down. So there is a reason. The people have explained why this is happening. Now why this modulus is very less here, again it is more here, and again it is less here. So there is a reason which is being explained by the people why this nature of the curve is something like this, and we can see this behavior by just plotting a very conceptual drawing over here of a crack. Okay, no fill. If you have a crack like this, if you have a crack, say for example, I'm just talking about a single crack or the joint within the body, and I'm applying a load into this. Now I'm applying a compression load. So what will happen to this crack? First of all, this crack is going to what will happen to this crack? Crack will close down. Now, once we are applying the load, the crack will close down. So so at the start of the loading, you are actually closing the such type of cracks, right? Once this crack will close, lot of stress will be developed in this region, and it can leads to the propagation of these cracks or these joints, whichever there is there within the rock mass. No? So during this process, once it is both the cracks are closed, when the joints are closed, so it will resist, the resistance which is being offered by this rock mass will be highest, right? So in that situation, you will get the maximum modulus of the sample, right? The test sample. No? So once it will be completely closed, then you will find that the cracks are being propagated, or this cracks is going to initiate from the end. From the end point, the cracks are getting initiated, right? So from at the end, so small cracks will come up. Okay, on both the sides, this side also and that side also, the small cracks will start once this will happen. So maybe I can make it a close one, because I was talking about that this second stage will be the closeness of the crack. Once it will close, your crack will propagate from the end. Okay, so we are talking about that thing. No? So when this is happening, when this stage will come, so we are talking about this stage 1, we are talking about the stage 2, and we are talking about the stage 3. So when loading and unloading is taking place, there will be 3 stages of this stress strain curve will be defined. First stage will be closing of the joint. Second stage will be the compactness, when it will offer you the maximum resistance, and third will be again the crack size is going to increase with the propagation. Okay, so we'll find out the 3 stages, and based on that we'll find out the different modulus, right? So first is your initial tangent modulus. We'll put a tangent in this region and we'll find out the modulus. It is nothing but your stress versus strain value. So we'll get this value. Otherwise, if you are having the load versus deformation, so we have the initial tangent deformation. No? Second, we can got the value of elastic tangent modulus. So that will be the second part of this. And third, when we are unloading, we will get the recovery modulus. Okay. And fourth will be your deformation modulus of deformation, which which is talking about the start point to the end point. Huh? So we'll get this. So there we are defining 4 different modulus, and all of them are having some utility. You will see people have tried to develop the relationship between the one cycle to the second cycle, second to the third, and they have tried to correlate the different modulus in different cycles, right? So these are the maximum 4 informations we can get out of from each cycles, right? Now, if you look at this slide, we are trying to find out the deformation. This WZ. WZ is the deformation between the 2 points, the loading point between and the point at which we are anchoring, right? So we are trying to find out the WZ when your loading will be like this. Loading will be very flat, and you are not putting any type of borehole extensometers. Okay, and when you are putting a borehole extensometers, with the some annular space is there, so we can find out the WZ will be like this. No? So we can get all this. We have derived all this relationships based on your elasticity theory, and we have this deformation between these 2 points will be something like this. Okay, and based on that we can find out the modulus of deformation, ED, which will be Q times the load which we are applying, and then KZ1 minus KZ2 by W1 minus W2. Okay, so when all things will depends upon all this data, the data which we are trying to develop over here is all depends upon the type of experiments we are performing, right? So this is your deformation modulus. I have tried to give you some problems, maybe we'll discuss later on. And you'll see the test site, the real test site, how it looks like. You can see the number of jacks are there, and the load is being applied, and the data is being collected, and you can see the different types of plots we have for these different types of cycles. Previous cycle was just not from the actual values, but you will see we are trying to have this. At the end, we are keeping all this constant load, and then come down, then constant load, then loading, unloading. It is going to happen. Okay, and we have the different values of deformations we are measuring for this at different locations, right? Okay. Now some questions are there, possibly when cyclic deformability tests are conducted on rock mass, the typical force displacement curve is shown in the figure. Explain why with cycle of repeated loading and unloading, the curve manifests different unloading and reloading modulus, permanent deformation and hysteresis. So possibly you are now able to answer these questions, and I will expect this answer from all of you. Now there are different types of tests. I will not go into all of them, but you will see the application of all these tests will depends upon whether the undergone material is safe or loose or hard. No? So if your material is comfortable strength and which can be stable for a while, in that case you can have a borehole and you can do this installation. But if it is not, then what to do? Then such type of this type of test, plate load test, is not possible. Especially when you are talking about this test, which will be applicable in an open surface. Now, if you want to have just now we are talking about the multi-story building. In that situation, what to do? In that situation, we can go for when you do not have a reaction frame. In case of first method, what we have seen, we have the 2 reaction frames are there, and we are getting the reactions. But here it can be done for the open air, where we have no such options are there. So we have to create a artificial reaction frame to get the reactions and apply the load. So okay. So these are the possible solutions from the civil constructions also. The people are applying the load wherever the load is not possible. They are trying to apply the load by maybe some dead weights. Okay, so they are putting the dead weights, or maybe utilizing some machines also to get this reaction frames, right? Below the below some machines itself, we are installing it, and we are trying to find out now. So this is yes. So I think this is all for today. Maybe next class we will try to talk about a little more about the testing, and maybe I can try to give you some of the examples from laboratory testing, which is happening in our lab, so that you can have a real feel of the stress strain curve, whatever we are developing, and how it looks like in natural. And also we will see some of the very interesting tests for we are doing for, like say for example, the radial jacking test now, where we are so we will I will just have a glance through that, and I will not go. So more or less whatever the procedures we have seen in plate load test, we are doing the same procedures for the other test also, but maybe the applicability will vary. Applicability of this test will vary from depends upon the reactions available, or the type of the rock in around wherever we are testing it. Okay, so next class we'll discuss again, and possibly that will give you a more. If you have any questions, you just ask me, or we can have some chat on the chat box also. You can throw your questions in the chat box, and anybody can reply. Anybody can reply, and this will be a very constructive discussion if you'll be open up. Okay, so this is all for today.